The silent connection. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Riverside Care Center, casting gentle golden stripes across the polished floors. Emma Chen stood at the nurse's station, her fingers nervously smoothing the wrinkles from her blue scrubs. She had been working at the facility for 3 months now, but her shyness still made every new patient interaction feel like climbing a small mountain. "Emma," called her supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, approaching with a warm smile. "We have a new resident arriving today. Mrs. Eleanor Hartwell. She's 78, deaf since birth, and will need someone who can communicate with her properly. I know you know sign language." Emma's heart quickened. She had learned American Sign Language in college, initially to communicate with her younger cousin who was hard of hearing. It had become a quiet passion, though she rarely had the chance to use it in her professional life. "I'll do my best," Emma said softly, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. An hour later, a sleek black car pulled up to the entrance. Emma watched from the window as an elderly woman emerged, her silver hair styled elegantly, her posture proud despite her age. Behind her, a tall man in an expensive charcoal suit spoke with the driver, his phone pressed to his ear. Emma assumed he was a family member dropping Mrs. Hartwell off before returning to his important life. She took a deep breath and made her way to the entrance hall. Mrs. Eleanor Hartwell stood in the lobby, looking around with intelligent gray eyes that seemed to take in every detail. There was something regal about her bearing, even in this unfamiliar place. Emma noticed the slight uncertainty in the older woman's expression, the way her hands moved restlessly at her sides. Emma approached slowly, making sure she was in Mrs. Hartwell's line of sight before she began signing. "Hello." Emma's hands moved gracefully through the air. "My name is Emma. I will be one of your nurses here. Welcome to Riverside." Mrs. Hartwell's face transformed instantly. The guardedness melted away, replaced by pure relief and joy. Her own hands moved swiftly in response. "You sign? Oh my dear. What a blessing. I was so worried no one here would understand me." Emma smiled, feeling her own anxiety ease. "I'm here to help you feel at home. Would you like me to show you to your room?" The conversation flowed naturally as Emma guided Mrs. Hartwell down the corridor. The older woman's hands danced through the air, sharing stories about her late husband, her garden, her love of classical music that she experienced through vibrations and visual performances. What Emma didn't notice was the man in the charcoal suit who had paused in the doorway, his phone call forgotten. He stood perfectly still, watching the interaction with an expression that shifted from surprise to something deeper, more emotional. Over the following weeks, Emma and Mrs. Hartwell formed a genuine bond. Every morning, Emma would arrive to find Eleanor already awake, sitting by her window with a book. They would share breakfast together, their hands moving in comfortable conversation. Emma learned that Eleanor had been a teacher at a school for the deaf for over 40 years. She had touched countless lives, yet now found herself in a world that often forgot to include her. Emma made small adjustments to Eleanor's care. She ensured that Eleanor's room lights flickered when someone knocked, rather than relying on sound. She created visual schedules and taught other staff members basic signs. Slowly, Eleanor's room became less of an isolation chamber and more of a welcoming space. One afternoon, as Emma was helping Eleanor with her afternoon medications, Mrs. Patterson appeared at the door with an uncomfortable expression. "Emma, Mr. Hartwell would like to speak with you in the conference room." Emma's stomach dropped. Mr. Hartwell, she had heard the name mentioned but had never met him. Was Eleanor's son unhappy with something? Had she made a mistake in the care plan? "Go on, dear," Eleanor signed, her face showing slight concern. "He probably just wants to discuss my arrangements." With trembling hands, Emma made her way to the conference room. She had glimpsed the man once or twice during his brief visits, always on his phone, always rushing. She knew he ran a major tech company in the city. People whispered about his demanding nature, his impossible standards. She knocked softly and entered. The man who stood by the window turned to face her. He was younger than she expected, perhaps in his mid-40s, with the same intelligent gray eyes as his mother. But where Eleanor's eyes were warm, his seemed to carry the weight of endless responsibilities. "Miss Chen," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "Please, sit down." Emma perched on the edge of a chair, her heart pounding. James Hartwell sat across from her, and for a long moment, he simply looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. Then, slowly, his hands moved through the air. "Thank you," he signed, his movements careful but fluent, "for seeing my mother as a person, not just a patient." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. She hadn't known he could sign. James continued, speaking aloud this time as his hands fell to his lap. "I've been watching, Miss Chen, not in any intrusive way, but I've seen how you interact with my mother, how you've gone beyond basic care to create real communication, real connection." He stood and walked to the window, his shoulders tense. "My mother is the most important person in my life. She taught me sign language as a child. She taught me that different doesn't mean less. But I've been so consumed with my company, with proving myself in a world that often undervalues people like her, that I've failed to ensure she had what she needed most." He turned back to Emma, and she was startled to see moisture in his eyes. "Someone who would take the time to truly listen," he continued. "Not with ears, but with presence, with patience. You gave her that, and you asked for nothing in return. Emma found her voice, though it came out barely above a whisper. She makes it easy. She's wonderful to talk with. That's exactly what I mean, James said, a slight smile breaking through his serious expression. You see who she is. He paused, then added, I'm establishing a new fund at Riverside, specifically to train all staff in sign language and to create more inclusive care programs. I'd like you to help design it, if you're willing. Emma stared at him, speechless. I know you're shy, Miss Chen, my mother told me. She also told me that the quietest voices often have the most important things to say. He extended his hand. Will you help me make sure other residents like my mother never feel isolated again? Emma stood, her shyness battling with purpose. Purpose won. She shook his hand firmly. Yes, she said, I'd be honored. That evening, Emma sat with Eleanor as the sun set, painting the room in shades of amber and rose. She told her about the conversation with James, her hands moving with growing confidence. Eleanor's face glowed with pride. Do you know what you've done, dear girl? She signed, You've shown my son something I've been trying to teach him his whole life. That success isn't measured in board meetings and profits, but in moments of genuine human connection. She reached out and took Emma's hand, squeezing it gently. You've given an old woman her voice back, Eleanor continued. And you've reminded my son where his heart lives. That's not a small thing, Emma, that's everything. Emma smiled, feeling tears prick her eyes. She had walked into Riverside 3 months ago as a shy nurse, afraid of her own shadow. She was beginning to understand that sometimes the smallest gesture's a kind word, a moment of true attention. The effort to learn someone's language could create ripples that changed everything. Outside, the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky, and in that quiet room, 2 women sat in companionable silence, their connection needing no words at all.